chords and an improvisational like melody. Really nice. But where did Ginastera get the idea to write this and all the other ideas in this piece? Ginastera used a lot of folkloric elements in the complete Sonata opus 47 for guitar. And in this video and in another video I will talk about these folkloric elements in the first movement Esordio and the fourth movement Finale. We will start with this part I just played for you, the Pasciata. In the Esordio, on the first page, Ginastera used this Pasciata as a form to start from when he wrote this piece. A Pasciata is like this kind of musical duel where guitar players and singers duel up to each other. It is structured as the following. First you have this musical part with a small guitar solo, followed by the first singer who will sing about daily life or about how bad the other singer will sing to engage in a little conflict in singing. And then there will be another musical interlude of guitar playing, and then followed by the second singer who will answer or say other things about daily life and the other player. So it's this kind of duel where they go up against each other and who's the best singer or who sings about the best, but it's all improvised. That's really important though. They use this fixed scheme of a milonga. They play the chords like a milonga, and then they talk about each other, or let's say just the weather maybe. So this is something really nice which Ginastera used in this first part. You have these four big chords and then this improvisational like melody, and then again with an answer in a different way and again and again. We will first listen to an original Pasciata just so you have an idea how this goes.
En la rueda del fogón, la guitarra junta amigos, yo siembro el diáfano trigo de la gaucha tradición.
So we had a small guitar solo, the first singer, and now we will have a listen a little bit further in the piece. We will get again little guitar solo and the second singer.
Gracias bardo uruguayo, algunas coplas que narro.
So you see music, singing, and they go up against each other. If we have a closer look at the score, which I already told you, the first part 4 chords and this part which imitates this improvisational singing. And then there is another folkloric element which Ginastera used, and I will show you by playing the second line of the first movement. There we had it, right in the end, this slide over the strings, this rasp of the nail. This comes from the folkloric playing of the guitar, and what they actually do in the Argentine style, they hold the string with the fingers and with the side of the thumb nail, which you don't use, so we use the left side, we take the right side, you rasp like this over the string. This is also an Argentinian folk way of playing this rasp on the strings. So to talk again about the Pasciata, this Pasciata is based on a cifra, and the cifra is actually almost the same. It's also a musical form where you play some music and you have a little bit of singing and then again music. But in the cifra it's maybe even more like the Esordio, because when they sing, they play the guitar very soft. You heard in the music before, the guitar was still quite there were 3 guitar players. And in a cifra they will make it more silent, and it will mostly be the melody of the singing which will be really there. And what they also mostly do is they have 2 verses and then a musical interlude, so that's why it's a little bit different than a Pasciata. But for the rest it's a very free form, they don't always use a milonga as accompaniment. second part of the Esordio. This is a really nice and calm part of this first movement, but it's also based on a very typical Argentine folk style, which is called the Bidala. And the Bidala is typically known for its rhythm, which we just heard, this quarter note, this dotted quarter note, 8 note, quarter note. And sometimes it's only the first and third beats, which is played without this small section before. And the Bidala is mostly played with a bombo. This is this kind of drum, which I will show you. And this is always where it comes from. So it's important to know in Argentina there are two kinds of musical styles. You have the Andino style and the Criollo style. The Andino is not influenced by European immigrants, and the Criollo is. So what you get in the Andino is mostly only singing and a drum-like accompaniment. And in the Criollo music, they will add guitar because of this European Spanish immigrants. We will have a listen to this bombo. So here we have this basic rhythm of the Bidala, but on a bombo. So the bom, chi, bom, bom. Always this same rhythm. And what is also really interesting and important to know is they always accentuate the third beat. And we have a rim shot on the second half of the second beat. This is a basic form. And what is important to know in the Criollo music, which I said was influenced by the European immigrants, they try to imitate this sound of the bombo, but then on guitar. And in a score, it would look something like this. So you would have a regular strum, a chasquido, regular strum, chasquido, and if you have a little bit of a variation, you will have this ending, which is written. I will play a little Bidala just to give you an example of how this is played. So, as you could hear, we played a regular strum in the beginning, and then we used this very typical kind of Argentinian way of playing, which is called the chasquido. The chasquido is, as we know, the tambora and the rasgueado. We use them at the same time. So what do we do is we hit the strings with the flash of the thumb, with the mouse of the thumb, with this part. And at the same time, we play the strings, the upper strings, the first two or first three, with the E finger, but really softly, just as a gentle touch. And this is called the chasquito. This is used in a lot of Argentine folk style. They don't really use tambora, they mostly use chasquito. And the chasquito goes like this. So you hit the string, and you play this, but at the same time. So something like this. Really soft tambora and really gentle stroke of the E finger. I will play it just in the rhythm one time. Something like this. So this is this chasquido. This is really nice to use because we will try to integrate this sound maybe later in the piece. I will show you later on. We will first listen to a real Bidala with accompaniment, so you have an idea how this really sounds. this was a nice example of a bidala because there were some parts which we haven't discussed before. There are some major important things in the bidala when it comes to melody. We have this Lydian melody. They always sing this Lydian melody. You also see in the chords, they first play like a C major, but then it's followed by a D, and then it goes back to C, E, A minor. And then you get this F sharp, which is really nice because then you have this Lydian melody and they use it a lot. Another thing which is used a lot is playing in thirds. You will always hear something like that. They will use thirds to play their melodies like this. And then a bidala is always based on a copla. A copla is a fixed style for poetry. In this poetry they will have 4 lines of text with 8 syllables. And you will also see later that Ginastera also uses this in the score, which is really nice to see. Well, we'll look at the score right now. So, we talked about this Lydian melody. I will show you where Ginastera has the Lydian melody. It's just the upper voice in this first part, which starts with an F. Really clear, this F, G, A, B. So you really hear there is this Lydian melody. So he used this part of the bidala already, the melody. It's based on a Lydian scale. Then we also had this typical rhythm inside the music, which is just a rhythm, which is written the really clear rhythm. And the accentuation on the third beat you can add because it's not written, but I added it because I wanted to play like in a more folkloric way. So if you added an accent to the third beat, you already have this feeling more like it was played as folk. If you look at what comes next, you get the tambora, where he tries to imitate the bombo or canto con caja, which is actually the same. The canto de caja is also a kind of bidala or baguala. And with the canto de caja, they only use the drum to accompany. So it sounds a bit like this, which Ginastera wrote. This is what Ginastera wrote. But when we looked at the bombo video, we saw that they always put a rim shot on the drum head. They didn't play the drum head, but they played the rim shot on the second half of the second beat. And this is a nice effect which you can add in your tambora, is if you touch the bridge with your E finger while you play tambora or something like this. So you have a double sound. And then it would sound like this. So you have this rim shot sound of the bombo, which is also more derived from the folkloric way of playing. So it sounds more like this folkloric way of playing. Then the next thing which was interesting, which I talked about, was the copla, with these forms of 8 syllables and 4 verses. And Ginastera also kind of based it on this, but he used it instead of syllables, he used notes, of course. Because it starts really interesting. The first 3 measures, they are 8 notes, and these 8 notes together are the first melody which there is, so it's the first verse. And then you get the tambora part, which is I think 10 notes, so it's not really strict, but then again the melody, which is again 8 notes, and then again this tambora. So it's really nice to see he actually used this idea of the copla. He used the idea of this first part, and then the second verse, third verse, fourth verse. The second and third are kind of the same. The first and third are kind of the same, and the second and fourth are kind of the same. And he used in this melody part always these 8 notes after each other, which is also something really nice to see. Then if we look a bit further in the score, there's another typical thing which I talked about, is these playing in thirds. We also heard it in the bidala. I will show you maybe again, where they played the guitar intro with thirds. we had this introduction with these thirds. And Ginastera also used this right after these tuba records on 3 and 6. So here we have these thirds, also a little reference to this folkloric element of using these thirds. I will now play from the tempo due, where we get this playing on the tambora again, and I will just play it once so you have an idea how I play it, where I add the beats, but it's really easy, just where you play tambora and there is a second half of the second beat where you have to play, you add the finger on the bridge, and the third beat you accentuate, so you will get something like this. So I hope you enjoyed my little lesson about the Esordio. I will also talk in another video about the finale, because there are also some very nice folkloric influences. So hope to see you later. Bye.